Ira Epstein, and here we are with your financial market wrap-up for the evening, as we're now on Tuesday, the 9th of April, 2024. So as we're here tonight, the market's getting ready for tomorrow's all-important CPI number, but it's more than just the CPI. Let me go through with you what tomorrow's got in store. Tomorrow you get the mortgage market numbers, the indices at 6. Then we get to CPI. So you've got the analysts looking month over month, what it's looking for. Then you get the core CPI, and then you get CPI in annualized terms as to what they're looking for. Then we get wholesale inventories and sales data. At 9:30, you get the EIA numbers on what the crude oil stocks and the distillates and gasoline looks like. At 11:30, we get first Fed talk, and that's going to be where Barkin and Goolsbee both speak, and they're speaking at a Social Finance Institute event. Will they answer questions about CPI and be there for that? We'll find out, but they'd be the first that could be speaking on it. We get the minutes at 1 o'clock in the afternoon of the FOMC, and then we get the Treasury outlays and receipts data at 1 o'clock as well. But FOMC data, CPI data, that's what you focus on tomorrow, and it's going to be very, very important because the market's put itself in a position like this. The market wants us to believe that whether or not we get rate cuts, the economy's so strong that there's a camp we don't need it, another camp, no, you're wrong, under the hood things are weakening. Does it matter right now? If they're weakening, they got to keep weakening to get the Fed to move. You would have to have a shock tomorrow. I don't see how it can come to that, but a shock where the CPI falls off a cliff and everybody goes quiet and goes, oh, this economy is really starting to crater. I don't think you're going to get a report like that. You could get a weaker report, and you can flip a coin and get a stronger one. Will we see shelter costs come down? They make up on the headline CPI 35% of the number. So that will be the number that if it's weak, that's the one that's most likely to weaken, but then you strip out for the core. And where are you with everything? So it's going to be a wild analysis in the morning. I fully intend on doing some special reports on this later in the day, a recording. For those of you that are in Australia, Chicago time, I'll be on TV there 6:40 p.m. Central Time here. So that's what, 13 hours later, so it's drive time there, probably 7:30 in the morning, 8:30 in the morning drive. And I do about I do a 10-minute show there where they analyze everything, and we'll see where they want to go. I never know what the questions are, so we'll see how it all comes up, but I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about CPI. And we got bank earnings coming up, so maybe they'll talk about that. Who the heck knows? But gold market, withstanding anything that the market's thrown at it, we were down all day in the stock indices until the last hour and a half. And then the market started to gather momentum and came back up. I'm very disappointed that you're losing the embedded readings. You lost them, in fact, in the crude. And today was a day where I was telling clients, buy it early. By the end of the day, it just didn't hold up. 50-point, 60-point risk, and that was it. Sugar market fell again today. Yesterday it fell as well. Bonds and notes, trying to make sense of this right now makes little sense. And you're back under the 70,000 level in Bitcoin. So when we look at the S&P on just a closing basis on a weekly, just the close, we're barely up, but we're up 0.19%. Okay. When we take a look at what's going on here, there's distribution going on. What's the swing line? Well, with today's outside day up, not tonight, but today's, you now have higher lows, higher highs. If you take out today's low, this is called a bull trap. And if you take that out, then markets often fall to the closest moving average or Bollinger Band under the market. In terms of moving averages, well, it's very far away. The one that's right here is the resistance of the 18-day average, and how interesting that the market's sitting at that going into the report tomorrow, because that's what I call the line in the sand, the neutral point on the chart. If you take out that low, I can make an argument for a challenge at a 51.92 zone. If the market can clear 52.69, I can make an argument for the 5,300 zone. So it's going to be a fun-packed day, and you have no edge with momentum. It's just going sideways, And as I said, the trend is up, but the bias right now about neutral. You're right on the 18-day average of closes. When we look at the NASDAQ, it too had an outside day up. What's an outside day? It's where you take out the prior day's low and high. If it's up, you close higher on the day. And just like the S&P, look at where you're sitting. You're sitting literally on the 18-day average and your momentum's flat here. Wow. When we come over to the June Micro Mini Dow, still in the bear camp. Did not do any of that. It is oversold. If it falls again, you're opening the door for the 38,796 level. If the market can get up over this high, then you open yourself up for the 39,570 level, the 18-day average. And the Russell is like the others. It's just hanging at the 18-day average with flat momentum. Only the Dow has been the one under the pressure. When we look at the 10-year notes, lower highs, lower lows, you had a bounce. The bounce began 48 hours ago, right here. And why not? You're going into a big number. Interest rates can go either way off of this, and I think the pros took money off the table against that number, and the same thing in the 5-year. You're oversold in both as well. In the dollar index, you had been in a beautiful uptrend, and then the market began a correction. When it did, it lost the bullish embedded reading. You hear me talk about that all the time. Markets often then go to the closest main moving average. It took some time, about a week, but it did it. It got down to the 18-day average, and now you're neutral in this chart at this point. In the euro, you have an uptrend, higher lows, higher highs. If it rallies further, the resistance comes in first at the 100-day average, then the 200 in the gray, and then the Bollinger Band. And if it breaks the first supports back at the 18-day average, a lot of damage is done if you take out the chart right there. And remember, you have a lot of news coming at this market. We have CPI coming at this market, which affects the U.S. dollar. Then we get what Ms. Lagarde and her group is going to do on Thursday morning as they hold their monetary policy, and it's widely expected they'll sit tight, but it's what they say, and do they give an inkling that June is a very much a live time to start cutting rates. The British pound, again, rallied against the dollar as the dollar broke. Now, has it got any momentum left in it or not? If it does, 127.78. I mean, we could get a pattern here where CPI comes in very weak and sets the dollar down and kicks up these markets. Conversely, you could get a pattern where a surprise shows up and you get a stronger CPI reading, which says the Fed stays higher for longer, and that kicks the dollar up and takes these down. It's a big bet overnight. In Bitcoin, you're pulling back into support at the 18-day average. The trend is up. It's higher lows, higher highs until this low is taken out, but you're fairly neutral in the sense of you're not participating like gold did on the upside. You know, Bitcoin made this whole move and gold didn't go anywhere, and it's now gold is catching up with it. Nobody mentions that, but it's pretty clear. Brent versus WTI crude sitting nicely at about 495 area right now. But here's what bothers me. When you lose an embedded reading, and you did this on the close today, it makes me I believe that momentum leads price, not price leads momentum. So it tells me that this market, before it gets over this high, wants to come down to the 87.44 level now. So I'm very disappointed. Same thing happened in the May WTI. So I'm now thinking the 83.40 levels a live play before the market gets over that recent high that it made. In the gasoline, you lost the embedded reading. I'm thinking the 18-day average is in play before you get up to that high. And by the way, we do have, as I understand it, tomorrow another meeting between Israel and Hamas in Cairo. We'll see if anybody makes any headway. You know what's going on. Hamas is playing the world against Israel, saying they're not going to do this, they're not going to do that. In fact, they're not going to do anything. They just want Israel to get up and get out. They're getting their people's butt and their own kicked, and Israel's just saying to the world, no. Really that simple. No. Hamas goes. Now, if Hamas agreed to go in some manner, this whole thing ends. I don't think that they will. Everybody that has power wants to stay in power. So I'm going to cover for you tomorrow, first thing in the morning with my morning futures, what I'm seeing at 5 in the morning, At 9, I'll be covering the ETF and the spider videos. Now, when I do those, I'll already have the CPI numbers in my hand. So I'll have a pretty good idea of what I think, where to do it, how to do it. I can already tell you at 5 in the morning, I'm not going to be telling clients do this, do that until after the 7:30. But those that get my full research, they'll get special updates from me afterwards if I want them to do something. Buy here, sell there, put a stop on it this way, take a look. Be scared or be joyful. That's what basically is going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a wild trade day. And this is where you take a look and you say, what can be done? So you go to iraepstein.com if you want to see this, and you go under the word research. Or you move your cursor to the top here, it'll take you right to that research area. Sign up, give it a try, and I think you'll like what you see. I'm Ira. You have yourself a great evening. I'll catch up with everybody first thing in the morning, and when I do my morning stint here at about 8:10 in the morning a.m. Central Time, I will know what the CPI is, and I'll give you some ideas about it. You have a good evening.